military recruiters in high schools. You ain't going nowhere. If you know where that's from, let me know, because I love that line in the entire film. But yes, military recruiters in high schools are not going anywhere, and I'll explain why. Because the Generation X is outraged once again. We'll see what happens here. What is up, guys? You're tuning in to NickyMGTV for another video. As always, you can hit me up on Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, or down in the comments below if you have questions. Also, make sure that you hit the notification bell, subscribe, because only like 70% of you are not subscribed when you watch this channel from the last video, so watch this one. But then also, I want to say I do have a gaming channel that you can check out. Go watch me game over there. You know, pop some heads off in little first-person shooter games, such as Valorant, Call of Duty, other stuff like that. But anyway, we're going to jump into the topic of Generation X getting pissed off once again. And guess what? Because there's a lot more to this than a couple tweets that got a little viral attention. I want to give a huge thanks to Lauren. If you guys do have news stories that you want me to cover, be sure to send me on Instagram, Snapchat, or Twitter. I'll definitely get to them over there. But anyway, she sent me this tweet that says, "Get military recruiters out of low-income high schools. Say it with me." This tweet has 18,000 likes and 7,900 retweets as of the screenshot that she sent me. There were a lot of people that did respond back to this by saying that their family, brothers, other people that they've known have obviously dealt with this, and some people actually coming back and agreeing with her and saying that they would be poor rather than join the military. And I don't want to misquote, but this guy that obviously can't use his face here and definitely wants to keep it hidden because he's too insecure of himself and his future says, oh, and by the way, his name is Sexy, but in a rat kind of way. That means, yes, you probably do not look that sexy. But let's go through this. He says, yes, I'd like to spend several years of my life training to kill people in the middle of absolute butt-fuck nowhere while under the constant stress of superiors, drunk off power and incompetence, and the chance in which you may be shot and killed. I'll work during high school. Thank you very much. And I don't care if you're going to work your Panera dead-end job in high school. You're probably not going to make something at the end of it because you're working minimum wage of maybe like $8 an hour if you're lucky. Just trying to make sure that you can pay your phone bill, gas in your car, maybe some insurance if your mom's really mean and doesn't want to pay that for you. But we're going to go into this because there's still more. And to quote him directly again, "I could be homeless and I would still not join the military." And that got 14 likes on it. But the one point that was probably the most important single thing that you could gather from this entire thread of conversation comes from the probably most common sense person. Willie Ortiz says here, "Just don't join if you don't want to. It's a voluntary service." Let me repeat that again. It's a voluntary service. And we have good old Reggie here with a 7 somehow in her name says, They stay at her school. And bro, I hate it. I'm going to say this, Reggie. I doubt they stay at your school. They probably get paid enough to pay their rent. They probably have health care, and they have a lot of other benefits that go with that. And one last thing as I'm going through this, Craig B writes the most probably idiotic response of this entire thing and says, "I strongly disagree." So he says we should have military recruiters in high schools, but he says stop making military recruitment incentive-based so recruiters have to meet a quota. That way they are more about these kids' future. Joining the military was the best decision I ever made coming from a small town in the middle of nowhere with no jobs. Well, I appreciate your service, Craig B. And at Craig Blitzen, I can understand your point of view. But did you ever serve or look at the point of view of a recruiter? They have a job. Like if you're at a pizza company and say Pizza Hut, Domino's sponsor this video. If you're at Pizza Hut, actually Papa John's, but I know there's a lot of controversy there. Any pizza place sponsor this entire video. If you're at a pizza place and you're like, but I really want to be a sandwich artist, Papa John's, Pizza Hut, Domino's are not going to say, "Listen here, Johnny, you want to make sandwiches and be an artist." They're going to say, "Listen, this is probably not for you. Go to Subway." They're not going to spend another second trying to train you, pay you, talk to you, think about you. They got another idiot that's going to come in there and lay a few pepperonis on that pizza and make sure that they can make $1 themselves. So I agree with your point of view. Obviously, we should be here to allow to better people. But guess what? There, Craig, they actually have somebody called, I don't know, they get paid by your tax dollars. They're called counselors. They happen to be at the school already to talk to them about college, work, life experience. Also, on top of that, maybe joining the military. All right, so now that you've now induced your brain to idiocracy once more, we'll go through this. So looking at it, yes, is there a disproportionate amount of people that are probably from lower income areas that are joining the military? Yes, I am one of those people. I grew up in a double wide trailer in a not as good part of town. I'm not going to sound like I'm freaking Eminem, okay? But it was not the best part, right? Like I didn't have a huge 2-3 bedroom house compared to a lot of people that I grew up around, right? That did happen. But what I want to say from this is I used to actually have the same mindset as many of you guys. I would look at the recruiters that came in. I'd look at the stupid JROTC kids that were out there that were like spinning rifles and stuff. And I was like, you guys are such conformist idiots. I get it. But as I have grown, I have matured, and I'm hoping these people will as well. And I'm not saying this just out of to be patriotic and sit there and say, support the military, support the troops, support whatever. Obviously, I think that's why they will never get out of schools, is because part of that front of it is part of the support for our service members. Obviously, we can't do what we do without support from people. But as I look back at this time period of my life where I was very frustrated by the military recruiters being in there, the ROTC, which I felt like was an indoctrination, I still have mixed feelings about that. I'll be honest with the ROTC part. For NJROTC or whatever, junior ROTC, the regular ROTC in colleges definitely makes sense. But what I want to say is that it felt like it was being indoctrination for me when I was looking at that. But now that I look back at it, I can say I don't think that's really indoctrination. And I understand how I thought that, because you put kids in a uniform, they have to wear it every Thursday or whatever day that they were, and they learn drill, they learn marching. It's almost like just learning how to obey orders and do things like that and follow directions, which is actually something that can be carried other places. So I do kind of understand and respect that and following rules. And I mean, those are same guidelines that you would have if you work at McDonald's. You got to wear this certain uniform this certain way. You got to wear a hairnet if your hair is like this. You have to do whatever. So it does kind of cross to other areas. But what I want to add to that is the military is just another occupation. So for example, in my high school, we had a technical field or institute type area that people could go to, such as working on cars, law enforcement, healthcare, welding, things like that. So when I look at ROTC, I'm like, this is just a different trade type occupation for someone to understand what they may or may not get into. And I don't want to, censor people from experiencing other things, because I do think that if someone wants to go into law enforcement, healthcare, any of these things, welding, car, mechanic stuff, they should have the ability or the resources to at least look at it. And I do understand that there are people out there that think maybe this is a brainwashing level of it, right? I don't think there's going to be much research on how that implements who comes in and who doesn't. I will be honest, many of the people that I did go to high school with that were in ROTC, not all of them joined. So it doesn't really translate 100% on my one, anecdotal type of database from this, but I would say it doesn't always equate to people joining the military. And some people just do it because they want to have a different extracurricular activity or a different elective class while they're in high school. So I can appreciate that. I will say there are some good things that do happen from high school as far as ROTC. They do allow scholarships from there to go to colleges, so that is good. And my last point here is, if you are a recruiter and you're looking in high-end neighborhoods, right, and you're going to go to the higher-end high school, does that really make sense for you to go there? If you are there to recruit people. Now, let's be honest. We understand why lower income people are going there. Now, I want to also give credit to people that use common sense here, because I'm assuming if you're watching this far, you have common sense. So if you had a good or service that you were trying to sell, maybe you were a meat seller, a butcher, would you move into the most hipster part of town that's, with booming vegetarian and vegan options all around you? Probably not, because you're not going to sell any meat while you're there. Your market is not there. And yes, I know you're going to go into the whole PETA ethics. I get it. But I'm using this as an example. Obviously, if you're a recruiter and you're trying to make the best bang for your buck, and by the way, those are your tax dollars paying for them to be there, wear the uniform, and recruit people, because that is part of the defense budget, guess what? Would you like them wasting their time and money in other places where they would be less effective? That makes absolutely zero sense. So, I'm just going to say this for me and you, as somebody that is in the military that's matured a little bit. I get your point, but I also want to say that I do believe that there has to be a level of common sense and efficiency and respect to your tax dollars and ensuring that people are going to be suited. And this does not mean that every person that joins the military came from a poor family. Look at the officer community where they are able to pay for college. Obviously, you are very skewed in your observation of thinking it's only enlisted, where obviously the officer community does have a higher end, middle to upper class level type of family they're going to come from because they can pay for college, and that is known. And that is also why, guess what? The military branches are pushing for diversity in the officer ranks to go from a more, historically driven, I would say, white population to also include minorities. And I do work for minorities that are of different ethnicities and from different backgrounds and stuff like that. So I'm just trying to bring some common sense to this. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below about this topic. I definitely think it's worthy to talk about. And if you guys do have questions about this or anything else, you can always hit me up on Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, or down in the comments below. Also, make sure you check out my gaming channel where you can see me play some video games, shoot some people in the face, and respawn and do it over and over again over there. But as always, I love you guys. I'll see you next time.